Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my April wrap-up. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I have read this month, and I usually go in order that I've read them, but I'm going to switch it around a little bit just because I just finished the best book that I've read this month, so I need to start with that one, right? Which actually also, let's remove this because it's officially not my birthday month anymore. I'm just going to put that on her though, because otherwise the camera will focus on her. So the best book that I've read this month has to be The Sword of Kaijin, which, why did it take me so long to read it? I have owned this book as an ebook for 2 years, over 2 years. And it's the only book in this video that I'm talking about that is a 5-star rating. It is a military Japanese-inspired adult fantasy. It is self-published, so it's not super well known. I feel like on Booktube you hear about it a little bit, but if you look on Goodreads, there are less than 5,000 ratings, which means it's like underrated. In the book, we're following two main characters, mainly a woman who has a violent past, where she went to kind of an international school where she learned to fight. And then you're following her in the present tense, where she has 4 sons. She married into a very traditional family where she's only a housewife, so she doesn't fight anymore. She has to pretend she never had, you know, that kind of past. And you're following her oldest son, also trying to live up to his last name and learning to fight, magical powers and everything. And super interesting. But for me, I think everything picked up at the midpoint where a lot started happening. It's not a spoiler, but there's kind of a war happening between them and the rest of the world. And the son is kind of having to figure out if the traditions are based on lies or if it's truly, you know, how things are. And I'm going to keep it super vague because it's a standalone. And I feel like everything I would say would be a spoiler, but love the magic system, love the political kind of intrigue, loved the characters, which I'm considering it kind of character driven, even though there's still a good amount of action. I am completely heartbroken. I loved it. I'm happy for some of the things. It's just, the characters though, I love them to bits. And why am I like this? It's kind of bittersweet that I wish there was more, but I'm really happy that it's a standalone. So I'm like kind of torn here with both of these things, but I highly recommend you check out this book if you haven't, because it's going to be one of the best books you will read this year, I'm sure. Feel very happy with the growth of the characters throughout the book, which again, not something you see often, especially in one book. I just finished it, so I feel like it's all still very like, ooh. But yes, you will see it in a future video about underrated standalone books, because please read it. It's so good. And it's super cheap. If you get the ebook on Amazon, I think it's like $3-4. Please do it. Just do it. Okay, we're gonna go back to the order that I've read the rest of the books. The original by Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal, I think. It's was made as an audiobook, I believe, but online they say that it's about 200 pages, so it's pretty short. And there lies my biggest issue, which I have such a complicated relationship with short books, because they can be really short, impactful, and good, and then sometimes they just leave you unsatisfied, which is kind of my issue with this one. You follow this woman who wakes up in the hospital, and she's told she has to infiltrate kind of a terrorist group because she has to prove that she did not kill her husband. It's a futuristic version of her world, and I thought the idea was interesting. A lot of the things, the twists that happen are interesting, but it's just so short that it feels like they tried to shove like a whole series, a whole like season of a TV show in one episode. That's how it felt like. So I didn't have time to really grow that attached to the story, the world, and I just needed so much more. The ideas are still good because Brandon Sanderson, I feel like he always has good ideas, but it's just not satisfying, so I can't see myself giving it more than like 3 stars, and it's gonna be forgettable. Like, I'm gonna forget that I've read this book, which never a really good sign, but yeah. Meh. The next book I need to talk about is Children of Time by Mary Doria Russell. This is the second book after The Sparrow, which I have been raving about for a long time. It's like a first contact with aliens, but it's very different. It's very character driven. You're following a group of people, including a priest, or a couple priests actually, that are going to a planet where music was heard from, and they are on that mission their main mission is really just to learn about them. And characters are super attaching. A lot of tragic stuff happens. There's like 3 different timelines, including the present time where there's only one survivor, a priest that came back, and he refused to tell his story. So it's very tragic. I have been calling it the A Little Life of Sci-Fi, which I stand by that. So book 2, I was kind of nervous to continue because the first book is good. And I was scared that the second book would kind of ruin it for me. It stood on its own so well that I was kind of scared. You do get a lot more from Emilio, the priest, and the book is still really sad. Like, I can't say too much because it would be a spoiler, but still very, very sad. A few good moments too. My main issue with it is that there's just too much in the middle. Like, the beginning is good, the ending is good, but it just drags a lot in the middle. I still think it's interesting to see the alien world feeling alien. That one, there's also still a lot about music. It's very philosophical, her whole thing, and I appreciate all the nuance. When in doubt, say it in French. About religion, politics, and it's great for that. But yes, I can't take it anymore. Like, leave Emilio alone at this point. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel exactly about it. I don't think it's necessary to read if you have read the first one and enjoyed it, unless you want to see more of Emilio. So I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Overall enjoyable. I got some good stuff out of it, but I don't think it's necessary. Next, I read your favorite historical fiction. I did a vlog about it, and I chose 2 of yours. And on that one, you're currently voting. You still have time to make me read your favorite sci-fi for the next version of this video. So definitely check that out if you want to make me read your favorite sci-fi. But the 2 we picked was The Huntress, which I have mentioned how I'm a little over anything that is World War II, but I think this is a good exception to add to the list because you're following, again, 2 timelines. The first one, you're following Nina, who grew up in a really remote, I wouldn't even call it village, in Russia. And you see her growing up there, going through the war as a pilot. She wanted to become a pilot, and she does that during the war. And then you see the present time where you're following a chase between a journalist who is trying to find Huntress, who is responsible for the death of his brother, and then things happening. And I think you can kind of tell with that description that I care a lot more about the past timeline than the present time one. So overall, still enjoyed it. I completely understand the hype with that one. That's always good because sometimes I just don't get it. I'm like, I don't know why this is popular. This one I definitely get if you are someone that enjoy World War II historical fiction. I do think this one is different enough to be worth a read. And yeah, I didn't really care about the present time. Definitely really enjoyed following Nina though in the past. So I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 also. It was good, but just nothing that, considering it's not really my main genre, and it's, again, about World War II, which I'm a little bit over, pretty solid rating anyway. The next book, though, I finally read The Kite Runner, which has like over 2.5 million rating on Goodreads. So like, everyone has read that book, I feel like. But I never got around to reading it until now because I just knew it was going to be sad and I wasn't really ready for it. And yeah, it was sad. I'm always a little skeptical with these books that are known to be sad because I feel very easily emotionally manipulated. Like, I'm thinking things like A Man Called Uvar. I still enjoyed the book, but still felt a bit manipulated. And it's not really different with this one. However, I think it's good enough that I'm okay with it. You're following Amir as he's growing up in Afghanistan, and you're following at the beginning his friendship with Hassan, who I dearly love. And Hassan is basically kind of a companion slash servant. And you're following him growing up through a lot of political instability and kind of growing up to now as an adult living in the US. And again, you can't say too much without spoiling it, even though I feel like most people have read it. If you want to see more of my reactions, I'll link the vlog down below, because my poor heart was not ready for a lot of the things that happened. I do think I enjoyed following the main character because he's not very likable. I got so frustrated with him. And I still am. I kind of hate him, to be honest. Not that everything he has done isn't understandable, but I just struggle to like him. I don't like him. But yes, definitely a book that is worth a read if you still haven't picked it up like me. Was worth it. Even though there's a ton of hype, I still think it was good. But yes, I'm still so frustrated with it, which is a good sign. I feel like it means that it really impacted me emotionally, and my poor heart. I think I'm gonna give it 4.25, 4.5. Definitely a solid read. Next, I did a second edition this month of reading authors, like giving authors a last chance to change my mind about them, because I have tried at least 1 or 2 books by them and didn't enjoy them, but I want to enjoy them. So one of the 2 books in there was Survive the Night by Riley Sager, who is not, the book is actually not out yet. It's coming out soon, and I hated it. There's nothing else to say about it. I feel like I've had such like up and down with him. Some books I overall enjoyed, some of them I had a bunch of issues, especially Lock Every Door. The main character was so dumb, and the twist at the end really annoyed me. But I went into that one hoping that it was going to be better, and it was not. You're following the main character who is clearly not doing well mentally. Her roommate in college was murdered by the campus killer, and she just wants to leave her boyfriend or her life there and just go back home. And she decides to get in a car with a stranger. He gives her a ride to go back home. And like, I had issues with, I'm gonna say everything that I can that isn't a spoiler, but if you want some spoiler, I will link again that vlog, because I went ham about a lot of the issues. But in the beginning, the author kind of plays with the is she crazy kind of trope, which I'm a little over, to be honest. I'm kind of over that trope a little bit, but you know, she throws away the meds that she was taking because she saw a psychiatrist and she doesn't want to take the pills. And she is someone that is studying movies, and she kind of sees movies. So like, she'll think something happens and she doesn't know, and the author kind of uses that to, you know, start the plot. And I was already kind of skeptical about it because I'm kind of over the whole trope crazy woman. And then things got worse. Again, no spoiler, but just cliche after cliche after cliche. The twists were not good. They just weren't. And I got really frustrated to the point that I was like looking at the beginning of the book to make sure it was the right book, the right author, because that was so bad. And the ending was terrible, in my opinion. Terrible. Just not going to say it, but terrible. And the after the ending pissed me off. Like, bad. Like, really bad. And time has passed, and I feel like I'm more mad than I was when I was reading it. Because in the vlog, you can tell that I'm really trying to like it, but no. Absolutely not. I'm giving it 1 star. I am very resentful. I think I will be adding the author to my ongoing list of authors that I'm not going to read more from. Like, my only exception, I always say, like, unless he comes out with a new book that people give 5 star to, I might consider it, but I think I'm just done with him. It's my 5th book by him. Enough is enough. The second book that was included in that vlog was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This was my 2nd book by her. And I listened to that one as an audiobook, which I feel like made me less harsh on it, especially because I was reading the other terrible one at the same time. But in this one, you're following a very unlikable teenage girl going to a magical school, which is one of my favorite trope ever. Like, I love reading these books, but I really did not care for that one. Partly because it's a very dangerous school. Like, just being in your room is dangerous. Going to eat is dangerous. Everything is dangerous. And following the character who's really unlikable, and there's this boy that just starts helping her, seems to be into her, and it just made no sense. And there's not that much of a plot. It's mainly her complaining and learning, I guess, a little bit. So it was hard to like focus on anything that would be good, since I didn't care about the characters, didn't really care about the setting, the plot, like. And then there are also some problematic things that are in there. Other people did do reviews that I would suggest checking out, because I feel like the audiobook makes it easy to not analyze it as much as you should. And because she's trying to learn like a lot of languages, it's important. She makes a few comments that are kind of problematic, and then there's the dreadlock comment that is also problematic. So definitely something to keep in mind, but it's a series I'm definitely not continuing. I know a lot of you told me that I think Spinning Silver by her is like so much better. I need to like give that one at least a shot, and I'll consider it. But for now, she's probably added to also that list of authors that just don't work for me. Because this year, that's my goal, right? To just let go and DNF books more often. I actually did not DNF one book this month. Maybe I should have with these two, but because it's my last chance, I really wanted to give them a chance. And I also listened to the audiobook Hood Feminism. I think this is part of my Goodreads reading challenge, and this is about intersectional feminism. And I think the whole title, actually, let me just read it because I think it's important, explains it well. Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot. The book focuses on explaining how mainstream feminism has for way too long focused mainly on the issues that are brought up by cis straight white women. And the book mentions things like housing crisis, poverty, food desert, maternal health issues, especially Black women, how, you know, when you look at the stats, they're the ones dying the most. And how the whole movement tends to not focus enough on these things, and like gun violence and everything is connected to feminism, and how it disproportionately affects women of color. If you don't have a lot of knowledge in intersectionality, it's the same word in French, that's why I can't say it in English. I think this book would be a really great read. I do recommend the audiobook. That's how I listened to it, because the author was the one narrating it. I love nonfiction. Whenever the author narrates the book, I just feel like it's a perfect tone. How she also included some of her own life experiences in there, I thought they were perfect examples. So if you were looking to learn more about feminism, especially intersectionality, I would recommend you check out Hood Feminism. It was awesome. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about the book that I'm currently listening to. I thought I was going to have time to finish it, and clearly I didn't. I'm 82% into the Boneshard Daughter, which is an adult fantasy series. This is the first book. The second book is actually coming out later this year, and I will most likely be picking it up when it comes out. I feel like this isn't the best book to listen to. I think the other book is fine. I just feel like the world building and the magic system are kind of confusing to begin with, so I feel like it would have been maybe a little easier to go through them as a, understand them as a physical book. But I overall enjoyed the character and the story, but it's just all over the place, because once again, I feel like it's kind of character driven. You're mostly following the Boneshard Daughter, the daughter of the Emperor, and this man who keeps getting sidetracked from his main mission of trying to find is she his wife? See, this is why I'm saying audiobook is not the way to go for me for fantasy books, because it's too complicated. But the magic system is interesting. Basically, they take bones from people and use that, like their life, as the power, and they create, well, not everyone, very few people can create these constructs that are kind of animal form, but like some of them can talk, and it's just very confusing. I'm 82% into it, and I am just seeing, the whole like revolt against the emperor, this daughter trying to prepare herself to take his place, and just a lot of political intrigue. But yeah, I would recommend reading the physical book over the audiobook. I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to end, because I'm overall enjoying it, but I still feel like at 80% I shouldn't be this confused about everything. So could be on me again because of the audiobook, but I would be curious to hear your thoughts, because I'll let you know once I'm done next month. But yes, so far I'm enjoying it, just confused. I feel like this is one of the months I've read the least this year, so I feel like this year's still going really well since I finished 8 books this month. Overall, pretty good ratings. I feel like next month is going to be a good month, though. I don't know why I'm feeling like that. I want to hear your thoughts on these books if you have read them, because I'm always curious to discuss these with you. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen of books that I recommend, videos that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Why am I so confused today?